What's up, tribe? How you guys doing? Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I hope you like this video. This is going to be Real Housewives of Dallas, season 3, episode 11. Now look, the real Leanne has shown up. We start this episode off. We have the whole split thing going on where we have Deandra is off doing a photo shoot for one of her makeup lines with her husband. You know, he's a photographer. So he's the photographer for the photo shoot. And she's just explaining where it came from and that she's the model because, you know, she's 49 years old. And she said selling, what's the, I guess a cream that helps your face look young and look healthy to 20-year-olds. She said using a 20-year-old model isn't really the best idea. She said, but I use myself as the model so people can see, look, I'm 49 years old, but the product works. I still have beautiful skin. I still look great, blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. You know, you weren't the first person to come up with that idea, but it's a great idea and a great marketing tool. Good job. And she got cheap labor because her husband is the photographer. Boom. On the other side of town, we see Cameron is hosting the opening of a boutique. It's a designer, like a nice designer boutique. And Leanne is there, and so is Carrie. And so, of course, they're recapping what happened at Carrie's grand opening, where Leanne is saying that she feels as though they're harping on her relationship and telling her that her relationship is fake and how it really was hurtful to her, and she's just hurtful with Deandra, and that she said, you know, then I told Deandra I was worried about her drinking with Brandy, and she said then all of a sudden Deandra says I'm calling her an alcoholic. And Carrie says, well, do you think she has a problem? And Leanne says, no, you know, I've gotten, you know, drunk with her plenty of times, but I don't think she has a problem. And then like 20 minutes later, she keeps talking. And then she says about her being an alcoholic. And Carrie says, wait a minute, that's a very serious accusation. Are you saying that you feel like she has a alcohol problem? And, you know, of course, then Leanne kind of goes, well, you know, well. And that is a very, very, you know, so I respect Carrie saying, hold up, that's a serious accusation. And if that's the road that you're going down, you need to be really careful before you go there. Now, Cameron's thing was Dallas. Y'all know they keep talking about Dallas being so conservative and stuff. And Cameron's talking about, you know, Deandra showing up drunk, you know, at charity events, and how, you know, people will get to talking and the streets be talking about you, and, you know, you start getting into polite society. There's certain do's and don'ts, and you don't want that reputation is out here, you know, acting a fool. But I get the feeling that Deandra has always done that. Like, that's just all she's always been. Because last season she talked about how she just never really fit the fell into the conforms of, the society that she was sort of born into. But okay. The other thing that came up that was really interesting is Carrie saying how, you know, it's very ironic how for the last 2 years Leanne hasn't had a problem sticking her nose in everybody's relationship and having an opinion and spreading all kinds of rumors. But now that the shoe is on the other foot, all of a sudden she's so hurt by it. And I said, yeah, that's how that usually happens. We don't usually be tripping about stuff until it's us. Then it's all of a sudden it's, how dare you do that to me? And it's like, bitch, you've been doing that to me for 10 years. Then we see, now I told y'all this, maybe 2 episodes ago, Carrie talking about how her family is from Denmark, and I said that's going to be the trip this season. Because, you know, every year they take a big trip overseas, or out of the country. It's not always overseas, but out of the country. They went to Beaver Creek, but that wasn't the big trip. That was just a little, you know, interlude. This trip, they are going, she's talking, she's going to go to Denmark because she said that, you know, her majority of her family's from Denmark, and how her father reached out to their family, you know, back when she was younger to try to meet her relatives that lived in Denmark, and how they went over there to visit. And she said, but I was just, you know, I was like a bratty teenager at the time, and it just, I didn't understand and respect what it was that my father was doing, and how important family is and important it is to keep those roots and keep it grounded. So she reached out to her cousin, who is in a rock band and has a album debut or something, and so she's gonna go over for that. But of course her husband can't make it, and Carrie says, well, you know, maybe I'll invite the girls. You know, I went with Brandy last year to her family reunion. Yeah, in Memphis, not in Denmark. But anyway, all the girls are going to Denmark, so, you know, that's gonna be their big trip this year. So I'm sure that's going to happen in the next couple of episodes. They usually take about 2 or 3 episodes for those overseas trips. Y'all know how it goes down. So they're going to go to Denmark, which I've never been to Denmark. I love to travel, and I've been to a lot of places. And I have places on my bucket list. Denmark has never been one. So I'm going to wait and see what this episode looks like. Maybe I might decide to add it to my list. It'd be at the bottom, though. So then we see Stephanie with Travis, and they're just talking about they're going to renew their vows. And she said that, on her 10-year anniversary, she always said when she got married that when she got to 10 years, she wanted to renew her vows. It was just something that she just it was a milestone for her. It was important to her, and it was something she wanted to do. And so Travis wants to do it. And he told her, he was like, look, I'm only doing this because you want to do it, but if it's important to you, it's important to me. I like Travis. I wasn't sure about in the first season because of the way they portrayed their relationship as him being very controlling and that kind of stuff. But I'm starting to see some different things, and I like Travis. I do. I like what I see. They also talking about him going to Harvard because he's going to that Harvard Business School for their programs that they have. And of course, she's worried about being alone with her kids for that long. Now, I've already talked about that. I'm not going to dwell on that. But Stephanie, she deals with depression, and she said that she realizes that she can be codependent because she doesn't like to be alone. It's because of her depression that she doesn't like to be alone. And I can respect that. I see where she's coming from. But I still feel like you shouldn't be nervous to be alone with your children. But I will say this, if you feel like it's connected to your depression, then I would say, and if she may already be seeing a therapist, but you see a really good therapist who can help you process those things, and maybe that's why she's a little, what's the word I'm looking for? A little, not very stern with her kids. Maybe she's, maybe all of that's connected to her fear and her anxiety, with the kids. So I can understand that, I still think, you put their foot in their ass and they get it together. But okay. But it was a cute scene with them. And then later on in the episode, we see where Brandy goes with Travis to get the ring. So Travis and Brandy's husband are best friends. So she knew Travis before she knew Stephanie. And she said, back in the day, Travis dated some real winners. She said, but the minute he brought Stephanie home, she knew Stephanie was the one. And she actually went with him to buy the engagement ring when he first went to propose. So it's sort of tradition. So he was buying his wife like an upgrade, and I think he ended up getting her an eternity band or something like that, but he got her a really nice upgrade, right? I think it was nice. I forgot the price because they looked at a couple of pieces of jewelry, so that was cool. That was really nice. So the big event, we have the cooking afternoon with Deandra's mom and her best friend. And, of course, her best friend has this fabulous house out in the country, honey. It's a beautiful home. And they had been cooking all morning already before we even got there. They had candied bacon. They had yeast rolls. They had asparagus. They had some really nice. It looks very scrumptious, very good. And they got to talking about, and it was funny because I feel like this whole moment was set up for Leanne and for Deandra. Because they were talking about friendship and how, friendship goes through different changes. She said, me and my best friend have fought and been through so much our whole lives, but we're still friends. And we've gone through some really, really rough times. And so I was like, okay, here we go. And then they gave Deandra a apron that said Queen Bee. And you remember Deandra and Leanne were arguing back at Beaver Creek about who the Queen Bee was. And so Deandra said, I think this was my mom's way of, sending a message to Leanne about who the Queen Bee really was, honey. So it was cute. And they gave Leanne this ugly ass apron. Then they were talking about cooking and how important cooking is. And Deandra's mother was saying how when Deanne would come home from school, she had a damn 3-course meal waiting on her ass. And Deandra said, yeah, and I had a weight problem my whole life because that's how I ate. She said her mother made fresh dessert every day. What? Now my My mama was a working mother, so I'm not saying she cooked a fresh meal every day, but my mother cooked a good 4 to 5 times a week. And when she ain't cooked, we had leftovers of what she had already cooked, because we ain't doing a whole lot of eating out. But I remember my mother made dessert on Sunday. Like, that was the thing. She would make something on Sunday, a cake, a pie, cobbler, whatever. And that's what we would eat on for the week for our dessert. You know what I mean? But every night, a fresh dessert? Honey. So, it was really nice, though. We had Deandra showed up with her husband. Leanne showed up with her fiance, with Rich. And the men went off to the side to do their own thing. They were going to taste the food after it was done. And then Cameron showed up with her mother-in-law. Now, remember, Cameron comes from the Westcotts, which is like a very prestigious family in Dallas society. And what we find out in this episode is that Cameron's mother-in-law, I think it's Jerry Westcott, she's like the queen bee. Like, people kneel at her feet. Like, she runs, that's what it seems like, that she like the Angela Channing of Dallas. Now, if you don't know who Angela Channing is, go Google Falcon Crest, okay? But she's like the shit. And so everybody was very respectful of her for showing up, and it was kind of like, the queen is here. Like, it really was like, oh my gosh, she brought Jerry. So they decided they were going to make meatloaf. Now, let me tell you something. I've never been the biggest meatloaf fan. I will eat a meatloaf. Clearly, my mama made meatloaf when I was growing up. But I've never been a big meatloaf fan, because meatloaf has stuff in it that I don't like. I don't like onions. I don't like green peppers. And who doesn't make a meatloaf without onions and green peppers? So I would have to pick all that shit out that I didn't like. Now, they started off good. Because they started off lining they had like the little pans, like the little personal cake pans. And they started off lining it with bacon. I said, okay, I like this. Bacon wrapped meatloaf. Now, I don't think I've ever had that. And I said, now that is something that I'm going to get my mama to try. Because my mama still cooks for me. I said, I'm going to ask my mama to make this. Then they got to cutting up the onions and cutting up the green peppers, and they were showing them how to cut up a green pepper and how to cut up an onion. Honey, then they brought out the ketchup. They must have used 5 bottles of ketchup. Do your own stock in it? Who puts that much ketchup on their meatloaf? Now, when my mama makes her meatloaf, she gives you a little squirty squirt up at the top of it with a little ketchup. But it ain't drowning in ketchup. I see. It is either ketchup, and sometimes my mother used barbecue sauce. She get a little jiggy with it and do a little barbecue. I have never in my life seen somebody use that much ketchup for a meatloaf. Never in my life. I don't know what that was. And it made me second guess everything else I saw that I thought was so good. I said, now what else did they fuck up? Right? Honey. So once the meatloaf gets in the oven, now we got time to talk, because we're waiting for the food to cook, right? So Deandra talks to Leanne about, she said, I really feel some kind of way about you insinuating that I have a drinking problem. And Leanne was like, I never said you had a drinking problem. I just said I was worried about you always drinking with Brandy. But Leanne, you did say that she was an alcoholic 2 days ago when you was talking to Carrie. Don't act like you ain't say it. You just didn't say it to her, but you did say she was an alcoholic. You said that shit. So they got to talking, and so they kind of got into a little bit of an argument or whatever. But then Deandra's mother came and pulled Leanne aside. She said, Leanne, let me talk to you for a minute. I want to talk to you. So she pulls her aside for them to go talk. And basically their conversation was about friendship and being good friends and being there for each other. And, she was saying, yes, Deandra's approach may not have been the best, but, it's all, she means well. She doesn't mean any harm by it. And, Leanne starts talking to her about the drinking situation, because they brought up how Leanne showed up with Brandy at the charity ball, and Brandy was drunk. Now, they tried to say later on that Deandra was drunk, but they were saying that her showing up with Brandy being drunk was just as bad. And then we see Cameron Cameron and the Queen Bee, remember Cameron's mother-in-law, sit down with Deandra. And honey, mama-in-law gave Deandra a little talking to and told her she needs to watch who she's hanging around and she needs to watch how she shows up to these events because the streets is talking and how it's not nice to get a bad reputation because then people won't want you around. And they won't want you around because of who you are with, because the company you keep is just as important as how you show up and what you do while you're there. And then she went on to talk about how Cameron has a friend. She said, and Cameron knows who I'm talking about. And I don't like that person at all. I don't like them being around Cameron. I don't like Cameron spending time with them. And she knows exactly who I'm talking about. I said, oh, shit. And you saw Cameron sitting there like a little chastised child. Like she was sitting there like a little kid. Like, you know. But so Deandra was like, she was taking it all in and she wasn't disrespectful. But you could kind of see the look on Deandra's face like, the fuck? Like, what have they been saying? Like, where's all this coming from? And so Jimmy, that's her name, Jimmy. And so Deandra says, okay, now I know why Jimmy's here. Jimmy's here to put me in my place. Jimmy's here to have a little talking to, a little talking to me. And she's pissed off. She got a little attitude about it because she is just like, okay, where is this coming from? Why all of a sudden am I the topic of discussion? Why am I the one that everybody's talking about? And so, she takes it in stride. She defends herself a little bit, but she sort of takes it all in stride. Like, she don't, Deandra don't do no whole lot of rah-rah, but you can see she was pissed off. You can see it bothered her. And in the meantime, Leanne is talking to her mom over to the side. And they're having a good little talk. And like I said, and Leanne is letting her mom know exactly what she's mad about and what she's upset about and everything. And she tells her, look, Deandra don't mean no harm. Y'all need to just go ahead and clear it up and just go back to being friends. Because, y'all go through stuff and friends, that's what friends do. Then it was over. They're all eating. Court shows up and all the men are there and they're eating the food. And her mother gives this grand speech about friendship and her family and how friendship is important and how we need to all be friends. And she talks about how, you need to make sure, she said, because she tells a story about her husband, the one that committed suicide. And when I said goodbye to him that morning, I didn't know I was never going to see him again. And you just need to be careful when you say stuff to people because you never know if it's the last time you're going to see them. And I'm just like, okay. Like, nothing was subtle. Like, the whole evening just seemed to be playing for the whole Deandra-Leanne situation. And it wasn't subtle at all. It was so obvious, right? But of course Leanne is over there crying and Deandra's sitting there like, okay, So then so the episode ends. We have our last little scene. Deandra's husband, who is a photographer, I mentioned that earlier, his work was being turned into a mural. He had a friend who does murals, and one of his most famous photographs, they turned it into a mural. So they had a big ceremony for the opening of the mural, and Deandra invited Leanne, but Leanne didn't show up. She said Leanne thought going to a charity event was more important than coming to my event. And but Stephanie was there with her husband, and they have a Tesla. Honey, that thing is beautiful. I want me a Tesla so bad. Carrie showed up with her husband. Cameron was there. I didn't see her husband, but Cameron was there. So everybody was there except for Brandy and for Leanne. Now, Brandy said on Twitter that she wasn't there because she had baby duties. Remember, she got the baby. But everybody else was there. Even Deandra's mom was there. So, of course, Deandra made a comment about how Leanne didn't come and that she went to some charity event, which was more important than her event. Do I think Leanne would have been there before they got into this argument, before they were having these problems? Yeah, I do. Oh, Court was there. I do. But at the same time, it ain't that serious. Like, all the rest of your friends showed up, and it is what it is. Like, sometimes, these reality shows crack me up that if somebody don't show up for something, then it must be like the worst event in the world. But Leanne's fiance showed up. So, again, she sent a representative, But the mural was beautiful. It's on the side of a building down in Dallas. It was beautiful. It was a nice event. But at the reception, after the unveiling, Deandra decides that she's going to confront Cameron because she basically said that she felt like she was attacked, that the mother-in-law attacked her, and she was like, and where would she be getting this information from? Why would she be saying these things about me? What are you telling her about me? And Cameron was like, look, let me tell you what you're not going to do. You're not going to run up on me. She said, the last person you want to piss off is my mother-in-law, so I'm going to tell you that you need to watch your mouth. Watch it very carefully. So Deandra was like, so what you trying to do? You threatening me? She's like, I'm just telling you, you might want to watch your step. That's all I'm saying. You might want to watch your step. Because my mother-in-law is not the person you want to piss off. She was like, and so she gets pissed off and she rolls up out of there. She's like, I'm done. I'm not doing this. I'm not arguing with her. For her to say that she felt attacked when my mother-in-law was only trying to give her some good advice and let her know what was going on and what was being said about her, she just needs to check herself and worry about who she's talking to. And then she went on to say, a lot of people have come to me and told me things about her that I haven't repeated or I haven't put out there. So she needs to just watch her step with me. I said, okay, Cameron. Cameron ain't playing with y'all. Like, you could hear it in her tone that she was pissed off. So, honey, we going to see how that go. They're going to carry that shit on the plane with them on over through first class into Denmark, honey. We're going to see how this shit plays out in Europe. I'll talk to y'all later. Peace.